The grand halls of Beijing buzzed with energy as a new era began. In late 2025, President Putin arrived in China, marking a turning point in global politics. Standing with Xi Jinping, the two leaders declared a friendship with no limits. Their partnership was now official, sweeping agreements on technology, energy, and space. The world watched as these giants challenged the old order. The events in Beijing marked the start of a new chapter for the world. In Washington, D.C., the mood was tense. For years, American strategists believed China and Russia were natural competitors, divided by history and ideology. U.S. policy relied on managing them separately, confident that a true alliance was impossible. The images from Beijing shattered that assumption. Putin and Xi's united front sent shockwaves through the White House and Pentagon. This was not a temporary alignment. It looked permanent and strategic. Suddenly, the U.S. faced its two main rivals joining forces, creating a nightmare scenario for American planners. A Sino-Russian bloc would command vast resources, military power, and influence over Eurasia. The concern wasn't just military, it was about the global order itself. The U.S.-led system, built after World War II, now faced a parallel system with its own rules and alliances. This new reality challenged American leadership and its ability to shape global events. Intelligence reports had warned of growing ties, but many dismissed them, believing differences would prevail. Now, policymakers had to confront the failure of their strategy. The effort to keep Russia and China apart had backfired. Instead of division, it had pushed them closer together. The U.S. was forced to rethink its entire approach. The U.S. quickly devised a new strategy: drive a wedge between Moscow and Beijing. This reverse Kissinger approach aimed to pull Russia away from China, seeing Moscow as the weaker partner. The hope was that Russia, wary of dependence on Beijing, could be tempted with better relations and eased sanctions. During the Trump era, attempts were made to build rapport with Putin, hoping to create distance between the two powers. Some in Congress argued Russia was the more manageable rival, and the U.S. should focus on containing China. The logic faced one rival at a time, not two together. U.S. analysts believed Russian elites would resist being a junior partner to China. By offering respect and incentives, Washington hoped to lure Moscow back toward the West. But this strategy underestimated Russia's grievances over NATO expansion and the depth of its economic ties with China. The two countries' interests had already converged. New pipelines, trade deals, and shared opposition to U.S. policy cemented their bond. The American plan required consistency and subtlety, but domestic politics made that difficult. Ultimately, the U.S. was trying to break apart a relationship that was growing stronger every day. The wedge strategy failed to account for the powerful forces uniting Russia and China. Instead of division, it only reinforced their partnership. The U.S. found itself outmaneuvered. The American strategy to divide China and Russia was doomed from the start. The real glue was a shared sense of threat from the United States. Both Moscow and Beijing saw U.S. policy as an attempt to contain their rise. For Russia, NATO's expansion was existential. For China, U.S. support for Taiwan and trade wars were direct challenges. This mutual perception forged a powerful political bond. When the West sanctioned Russia, China increased trade, providing an economic lifeline. When China faced criticism, Russia offered diplomatic support. This mutual backing made Western pressure far less effective. Economic ties deepened. Russia became a top energy supplier to China, while China provided technology and investment. Pipelines like Power of Siberia locked in their partnership for decades. The U.S. offered Russia little of value. Vague promises couldn't compete with concrete benefits from China. Moscow saw its future as a key player in a new Eurasian order, not as an isolated state. The bond with China became a strategic necessity for survival and prosperity. The U.S. misread Russia's priorities. The partnership was no longer just convenient, it was essential. The alliance was now unbreakable. As the U.S. tried to split the alliance, Putin responded with clarity. He publicly rejected American overtures, declaring the China partnership the best in history. Putin dismissed U.S. efforts as outdated Cold War tactics. He insisted Russia and China would choose their own futures, resisting any attempts to undermine their interests. Actions matched words. Russia accelerated its pivot east, deepening military and economic ties with China. Joint drills and aligned positions on global issues sent a clear message. The alliance was solid. Putin argued that partnership with China enhanced Russia's sovereignty, not diminished it. For him, the real threat was a world dominated by the U.S., not by China. Another pillar of U.S. strategy was India. Washington hoped India would join a coalition to contain China, formalized through the Quad. But the U.S. misread India's priorities. India values strategic autonomy and maintains strong ties with Russia, its historic partner. When the West sanctioned Russia, India bought discounted Russian oil, prioritizing its own interests. India's refusal to abandon Russia frustrated Washington, but underscored a broader truth. Many countries, especially in the global South, reject binary choices. India's actions showed the world is more complex than a simple East-West divide. The dream of a united front against the China-Russia axis was just that, a dream. A cornerstone of the China-Russia partnership is building a new economic system, independent of the US dollar. De-dollarization is underway. Most trade between Russia and China now uses rubles and yuan. This insulates them from American sanctions and financial pressure. They're also developing alternatives to SWIFT, creating financial autonomy. Massive infrastructure projects, pipelines, Arctic ports, and the Northern Sea Route bind their economies together. This is a modern Silk Road, built on shared interests and mutual benefit. The partnership extends beyond their borders, through organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS. They promote local currencies for trade. Many nations in the global South are attracted to this alternative, seeking independence from the dollar and US sanctions. China and Russia are not just protecting themselves, they're offering a new path for others. The economic order they're building is reshaping global finance. The world is watching, and many are joining. The shift is accelerating. The China-Russia alliance signals a profound shift in the global order. The era of a single superpower is ending. A multipolar world is emerging. Putin envisions a greater Eurasian partnership, cooperation from Lisbon to Vladivostok, free from any single power's dictates. He and Chinese leaders call for reforming or replacing Western-dominated institutions like the IMF and World Bank. The expansion of BRICS, now including new members, gives the bloc a powerful global voice. Across the global South, many welcome this vision of a more balanced world. They see opportunity, not threat, in diversifying relationships beyond the West. Russia's ties with these nations, built on non-interference and mutual respect, accelerate the realignment. The American strategy to isolate Russia and contain China has failed. Instead, it has forged a powerful alliance that is redrawing the map of global power. The multipolar world is no longer a theory. It's here, growing stronger every day. The 21st century's story is being rewritten before our eyes.